Aquarius, let me ask you something and listen closely. Have you felt it lately? That quiet moment when something inside you shifted and life didn't look the same anymore. Not excitement, not fear, but a deep, steady knowing, like you're standing between two lives, one already closing and one you haven't stepped into yet. If this message found you, it's not random. You didn't click by accident. Before we go any further, comment this to anchor it in your energy. I receive what's opening for me. Because what you're about to hear isn't just a message, it's the beginning of a new timeline. And the next moment is where everything quietly changes. Aquarius, stay right here with me for a moment. I want you to imagine this like we're sitting in the same room, late at night. No noise, no rush, just honesty. Because what you're feeling right now, it's not confusion, and it's not uncertainty. It's that quiet sensation that tells you something in your life has already moved, even if the world around you hasn't caught up yet. You're not preparing anymore. That part is over. There was a time when everything felt like rehearsal. Like you were gathering tools, learning lessons, building strength in the dark. But this moment feels different, more still, more serious. It feels like standing in a doorway with one hand still touching the past and the other already sensing what's ahead. You don't need to force anything to see it. You can feel it in your body, that slow spiral of energy inside your chest, that subtle pull forward, that awareness that something big is approaching without needing a name yet. And here's the part I want you to hear clearly. This isn't a vague intuition. This isn't wishful thinking. This is recognition. A deep inner understanding that the life you've been living no longer fits the person you've become. You didn't outgrow it overnight. You evolved quietly, gradually, patiently. Aquarius energy works like that. You don't announce your shifts. You don't dramatize endings. You simply wake up one day and realize you can't stay where you are anymore. Not because it's wrong, but because it's complete. The old version of you did what they came here to do. They carried you through lessons that required endurance, detachment, vision. And now something else is calling. You might notice things falling away without a fight. Conversations that no longer pull you in. Goals that don't excite you the way they used to. Situations that feel strangely hollow even if they once mattered deeply. That's not loss. That's alignment. It's the subtle way life clears space before it introduces something larger. And you don't need to rush through this doorway. You don't need to push it open. It's already opening. Your only job right now is to notice how calm this moment actually feels. Not dramatic, not chaotic, just quietly powerful, like the pause before something irreversible begins. Take a breath here. Let that land. Because once you recognize this threshold, you don't go back to sleep. You start seeing your life differently. Your choices feel heavier. Your energy feels more valuable. And without realizing it, you begin stepping forward not because you're searching, but because something ahead already knows your name. Stay with me. Aquarius, there is something gentle happening now, and I want you to feel it rather than analyze it. Notice how certain things are leaving your life without a dramatic ending. No confrontation, no collapse. They are simply losing their grip on you. You are closing cycles, but not with sadness. More like relief. It can feel strange at first. Because the mind expects endings to hurt, to be loud, to demand attention. But this is different. This feels quiet, intentional, almost respectful. You are letting go of connections, habits, responsibilities that once made sense for who you were. Not because they failed you, but because they already served their purpose. That is an important distinction, and I want you to sit with it. You did not outgrow these things in anger. You outgrew them in awareness. There is a calm maturity in that, a kind of grace. Aquarius energy does not cling. When you know, you know. And when you know something is complete, you do not need to explain your exit. You simply stop giving it your life force. You may notice yourself stepping back quietly, answering fewer calls, feeling less reactive, caring less about proving anything. Not because you are disconnected, but because you are finally connected to something deeper inside yourself. And here is the truth that often goes unnoticed. This release is not loss. It is preparation. Life has a way of asking for space before it delivers something expansive, and it rarely asks loudly. It whispers. It rearranges your environment, your priorities, your emotional bandwidth. You might even question yourself at times. Wonder if you are becoming distant or colder. You are not. You are becoming precise. Your energy is learning where it belongs and where it no longer needs to be spent. That is wisdom, especially at this stage of your life. What you are stepping away from now cannot follow you into what is forming ahead. It would weigh you down, distract you, dilute what you are about to carry. So the clearing happens first. Not as punishment, not as consequence, as kindness. Take a moment here. Breathe. Feel how much lighter your inner world already feels even if nothing external has changed yet. That is alignment beginning to take shape. You are not emptying your life. You are making room for more stability, more abundance, more meaning, room for experiences that require a stronger container. And the most beautiful part is that you do not have to force any of this. It is happening naturally. Because you are ready. Stay with this feeling. Let it settle into your body. Because once the space is created, something else always knows how to find its way in. Aquarius, come a little closer with me now. There's something subtle I want you to notice. Something that doesn't announce itself loudly, but once you feel it, you can't unfeel it. Think back for a moment. Not to a specific memory, but to a version of yourself, the one who used to believe. Back then, belief felt like reaching, like standing on the edge of something unknown and telling yourself, maybe this could work. Belief required effort. It needed encouragement. It needed reassurance from the outside world. You held on to it carefully, almost protectively, because part of you wasn't sure if it would hold you back. Then, over time, belief softened into hope. Hope felt warmer, more emotional. You could picture a different life and feel your chest open just enough to imagine it might arrive someday. Hope carried longing. It carried desire. It also carried waiting. And then there was faith. Faith didn't ask as many questions. Faith said, this will happen, even if I don't know how. Faith was steadier, quieter. But it still leaned forward, still looked toward the future, still asked time to prove something. And now, Aquarius, listen carefully. What you're in now doesn't lean forward anymore. It doesn't ask. It doesn't wait. It settles. This is knowing. Knowing doesn't need emotional charge. It doesn't come with excitement or urgency. It arrives like a deep exhale after a long journey. You don't talk about it much. You don't explain it to people. Not because you're hiding it, but because there's nothing to explain. You just know. You know who you are becoming. You know the kind of life that fits you now. You know what is no longer aligned without needing to justify the decision, and that knowing it's incredibly still. Aquarius energy matures beautifully this way. When you reach this point, you stop trying to convince the world of your vision. You don't need permission. You don't need validation. You don't even need clarity yet. Because knowing lives in the body, not the mind. It shows up as calm, as patience, as a quiet confidence that doesn't rush to prove itself. You might notice yourself moving differently now, speaking less, listening more, choosing carefully where your energy goes. That's not withdrawal. That's sovereignty. You've crossed a line where doubt no longer has authority over your decisions. And here's something important. This knowing didn't come from optimism. It came from experience, from walking through disappointment, from watching what didn't work, from learning where your truth actually lives. That's why it's so stable. This is the kind of certainty that doesn't collapse under pressure, the kind that doesn't disappear when things get quiet. It simply stays. Take a breath here. Let yourself feel the weight of that. Because this knowing changes how life responds to you. It changes what you tolerate, what you pursue, what you no longer chase. And without forcing anything, you begin to stand differently in the world. Still, grounded, as if something inside you has already decided that what's meant for you will find its way. And from that place, everything else begins to align without needing to be pushed. Stay right here with this feeling. Aquarius, there is a reason your mind feels quieter lately. Not empty, just clearer. It is not that you have fewer thoughts. It is that fewer thoughts are allowed to stay. You may have noticed it slowly, almost without trying. Certain mental loops no longer hook you. Certain worries arrive and leave just as quickly. That is not detachment in a cold way. That is discernment. Your mind is reorganizing itself the way a well-lived home does when it is ready for something new. Not everything is thrown away. Only what no longer belongs. You are becoming selective. Not harsh. Not rigid. Simply precise. You pause before engaging a thought now. You ask quietly, is this worth my energy, or is this just noise asking for attention? Aquarius energy matures into this naturally. You have always been a thinker, a visionary, someone who can hold many perspectives at once. But now your intelligence is no longer scattered. It is focused. Your inner world feels like a system that has been gently recalibrated. Every belief, every idea, attention has a purpose or it does not stay. You are not trying to control your thoughts. You are curating them. There is a difference. Control comes from fear. Curation comes from respect for your own mental space. And that space matters more now than ever. Because what is forming in your life cannot arrive in a crowded mind. It needs room to land, room to breathe, room to grow. You understand this intuitively. You do not need anyone to explain it to you. That is why you are drawn to stillness lately. Moments without distraction, silence that does not feel lonely but nourishing. In those quiet spaces your awareness sharpens. Insights come without effort. Answers arrive without force. You are not chasing clarity anymore. You are allowing it. This is one of Aquarius' greatest strengths, the ability to step back from the noise of the world and see what actually matters. Your mind was never meant to be busy. It was meant to be spacious. And in that spaciousness, something powerful begins to take shape. You might feel it as a subtle readiness, a sense that you are being prepared not for chaos, but for responsibility. Not for overwhelm, but for expansion. The next phase of your life requires a clean mental foundation, not perfection, just honesty. You are learning to release thoughts that do not serve the future you are stepping into. Old self-narratives, old limitations, old definitions of who you thought you had to be. They fall away quietly, without drama. And in their place there is room. Room for creativity that feels grounded. Room for decisions that feel aligned. Room for a version of you who does not overthink their own worth. Take a breath here. Notice how good that feels. This is not emptiness. This is readiness. When space is created, life responds differently. Opportunities find you more easily. Clarity arrives without pressure. You do not need to fill this space yet. You only need to protect it. Because what is meant to enter your life already knows how to recognize you when your mind is finally quiet enough to receive it. Stay with this calm. It is doing more work than you realize. Aquarius, there's a quiet shift happening around you now. Not the kind that demands attention. The kind you only notice when you finally stop bracing yourself. What's coming may look, from the outside, like luck, like a sudden opening, like things finally working out. But you and I both know this didn't arrive overnight. This has been building for a long time. Every choice you made when no one was watching. Every moment you chose restraint over reaction. Every time you walked away from something that didn't honor your future. That was alignment. Even when it felt lonely. Even when it felt slow. And now life is responding. You might sense it as a quiet readiness inside you. A feeling that says, I can hold more now. More resources, more responsibility, more freedom. Not in a reckless way, in a grounded way. Aquarius, this is important. What you're stepping into is not excess, it's capacity. You're not being given more to prove anything. You're being trusted with more because you've shown you know how to carry it. There is a maturity to your energy now, a steadiness. You're no longer chasing growth for validation. You're building something that lasts. And that changes everything. Money, opportunities, influence. They don't arrive to overwhelm you. They arrive to expand what's already stable. You may notice that your desires have shifted too. Less about appearance, less about being seen, more about security. Integrity, freedom that can't be taken from you. That's wisdom. Especially at this stage of life, you are preparing to hold abundance without losing yourself in it. To manage success without letting it manage you. And that takes space, patience, a strong inner foundation. This season isn't loud. It's not flashy. It doesn't need an audience. This is the season of reinforcement, of strengthening the roots before the structure rises. You are learning how to receive without rushing, how to expand without burning out. That's why things feel deliberate now. Why you move slower, why you say no more often. You're protecting the version of you that's about to carry more weight and more possibility. Take a moment here. Feel into that. Notice how different this feels from the old hunger, the old urgency, the old need to prove. This isn't about arrival. It's about sustainability. You're not meant to flash and fade. You're meant to build and endure. And what's aligning with you now knows the difference. Let that settle into your body, into your breath. Because when the moment comes and things begin to flow more freely, you won't be surprised. You'll recognize it, not as luck, but as the natural result of who you've become. Stay right here with this feeling. There's more forming around it. Aquarius, there's something tender I want to speak into right now. Something you might not have named yet, but you've been living it. Notice how the way you show up for yourself has changed. Not dramatically, not performatively, just quietly. There was a time when everything you did came from pressure, from survival. From that inner voice that said keep going or everything will fall apart. You pushed through exhaustion, ignored your body, carried responsibilities that were never meant to be yours alone. And you did it well. You survived. You adapted. But survival leaves a mark. It tightens the nervous system. It makes love feel conditional. It turns rest into guilt. And somewhere along the way, you felt that shift. The moment you realize you don't have to live like that anymore. What's happening now is different. You're still disciplined, still committed, still intentional. But the energy behind your actions has softened. You're taking care of your body not because you're afraid of losing it, but because you finally respect it. You eat better. You rest more deliberately. You move your body not to punish it, but to keep it strong for the road ahead. And that road you can feel how far it goes. That's the key. You're no longer showing up for yourself out of fear of collapse. You're showing up because you know you're going somewhere meaningful. That changes everything. Discipline stops feeling like restriction. It starts feeling like devotion. You don't force routines anymore. You choose them, because they support the version of you that's becoming more real each day. And the way you speak to yourself has changed too. less harshness, less urgency, more patience, more honesty. You don't abandon yourself when you slow down. You stay. This is not weakness, this is maturity. Aquarius, this is what it looks like when stops living in reaction and starts living in intention. You're building a life that doesn't rely on adrenaline to function, a life that can hold success without burning you out. And that matters. Because the future you're stepping into requires a different kind of strength, not the kind that grits its teeth and survives, the kind that sustains. This is how timelines change, not through force, but through love applied consistently over time. You are learning how to be loyal to yourself without needing crisis as motivation. That is a rare shift, and a powerful one. Take a breath here. Feel how grounded this version of you feels. Stable, present, unrushed. You're no longer running away from something, you're walking towards something with care. And that care becomes the foundation everything else stands on. This is how you know you've crossed into a more enduring season of your life. Not because everything is perfect, but because you're no longer at war with yourself. And when you move from that place, life responds differently. It begins to meet you with the same steadiness you offer yourself. Stay with this feeling. Let it anchor you. There's a quiet intelligence guiding you now, and it knows exactly where you're headed. Aquarius, there is a kind of silence surrounding you right now. Not the empty kind, the intentional kind. It might feel unfamiliar, because the mind wants movement. It wants direction. It wants a plan it can hold on to. But this moment is asking for something else. You don't need to know how. You don't need to know when. And that can feel uncomfortable if you've spent most of your life being the one who figured things out. You're used to understanding systems, patterns, outcomes. You're used to seeing the future before it arrives. But right now, life is asking you to rest inside the unknown. This space you're in is not a pause caused by confusion. It's a pause caused by precision. Everything feels quieter because something is being formed where you can't interfere with it. This is the void, not darkness, not absence, a holding space, a place where nothing is visible yet, but everything is possible. Think of it like the moment before dawn. The sky hasn't changed, the light hasn't arrived, but something in the air already knows what's coming. That's where you are. Stillness doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means something delicate is happening, something that doesn't need your control, something that needs your trust. The ego doesn't like this part. It gets restless. It starts asking questions. What should I do next? What if I miss something? What if I wait too long? Those questions are human. They come from protection, but your soul is operating on a different rhythm now. Your soul understands timing in a way the mind never will. It knows that forcing clarity too early can distort what's trying to arrive. So instead of answers, you're being offered space. Space to breathe, space to listen, space to feel without labeling. You might notice that inspiration arrives differently now. Not as loud ideas, not as sudden urgency, more like quiet nudges, gentle pulls, subtle moments of recognition. You're not meant to chase them, just notice them. This is a season of gestation, the unseen work, the inner alignment. And Aquarius, this part requires courage, because trust without evidence is a higher level of strength. Anyone can move when the path is clear. It takes wisdom to stay present when the path hasn't revealed itself yet. You are not behind. You are not stalled. You are exactly where you need to be for the next opening to recognize you. Every time you resist the urge to rush, you deepen the alignment. Every time you choose stillness over panic, you widen the doorway. The answers you're waiting for are already moving toward you. They're just waiting for enough space to arrive fully formed. Take a breath here. Let your shoulders soften. You don't need to figure this out tonight. You don't need to solve your life. You only need to stay available. Available to the moment. Available to yourself. Available to what's quietly unfolding. Because when the timing is right, the next step won't need explanation. It will feel obvious, natural, undeniable. And you'll move not from urgency but from resonance. Stay here with this calm. There is a rhythm guiding you now, and it has never missed its mark. Aquarius, there is a simplicity to this moment that is easy to overlook. Because the mind wants instructions. It wants effort. It wants something to do. But what's being asked of you now is much quieter than that. You don't need to fight the energy you're in. You don't need to shape it. You don't need to question it. It already knows where it's going. When you truly know that a new life is forming, something inside you relaxes. The urgency softens. The pressure dissolves. You stop gripping the future and you stop escaping the present. That balance is rare. Most people either rush ahead or remain stuck in what's already fading. But you're learning how to stand right here, fully here, not distracted by fear, not pulled by impatience. And presence, Aquarius, is far more powerful than effort. When you're present, your energy becomes coherent. It stops contradicting itself. You're no longer saying one thing internally and doing another externally. You're no longer hoping for change while emotionally bracing for disappointment. You're simply living as if what's meant for you is already on its way. That state alone changes how life responds to you. You may notice people reacting differently, opportunities approaching without force, conversations opening naturally, not because you're trying harder, but because you're aligned. This is where magnetism comes from, not performance, not intensity. Consistency. There is a quiet confidence in you now, not the kind that needs to announce itself. The kind that doesn't flinch. You're no longer trying to convince the world of who you are becoming. You're allowing the world to meet you there. And that makes you steady, unshakable. You don't rush your days anymore. You let them unfold. You notice small moments. You feel your breath. You listen more than you speak. That isn't slowing down. That's refinement. This is how power matures. It doesn't shout. It doesn't chase. It doesn't prove. It attracts. You don't need to monitor your progress constantly. You don't need to check how close you are. Your job is simpler than that. Be where your feet are. Say yes to what feels honest. Say no to what feels forced. Let your nervous system stay calm. Let your heart stay open. Let your mind stay spacious. The future you're stepping into is not built through anxiety. It's built through integrity, through showing up the same way even when no one is watching. That consistency is what makes you unstoppable. Not in a loud way, in a lasting way. Aquarius, you are entering a phase where your presence alone sets the tone. You don't need to push doors open. They respond to your calm. You don't need to chase recognition. It finds you when you're not looking. This is the kind of power that doesn't exhaust you. It nourishes you. Stay with this steadiness. Let it anchor into your daily life. Because from here, everything that arrives will meet you exactly where you stand. Aquarius, before you go anywhere, stay with me for just a few more breaths. Because here's the part most people don't expect. The moment you stop searching for signs is usually the moment you realize you've become the sign. Nothing dramatic happened tonight, no fireworks, no sudden revelation falling from the sky, and yet, if you're honest with yourself, something inside you is quieter now. More certain. That's how real shifts happen. Not by force, not by noise, but by recognition. You didn't listen to this message by accident. You stayed because some part of you already knew this was meant to meet you right here. And if there's one thing I want you to take with you, it's this. You are not late, you are not behind, and you are not missing anything. You are exactly where someone becomes ready to live from knowing instead of hoping. Let that settle. If this resonated, if something in your chest softened or opened, leave a comment with this simple line. I trust myself, not for me, for you, because speaking it anchors it. And if this space feels like home to you, subscribe. Stay connected. You're not walking this path alone. There is a quiet community of Aquarians learning how to live with clarity, integrity, and calm power. This journey doesn't end here. It never really does. Another message is already forming. Another layer of understanding waiting to meet you when the timing is right. Until then, move gently, stay present. Trust what you feel. Because the timeline you're stepping into is not asking you to become someone new. It's simply inviting you to fully be who you already are. I'll meet you again very soon.